I don't know that there's much more that I can say in all this. There has to be an end to it. Either I lose, and it certainly looks like they've won. I'm going to go again and introduce this and say what I have to say this morning. It's 29th of November 2017. This is Elizabeth, who is the illegal monarch and has committed every crime in the book. She's a war criminal. She's used my money. I'm Victoria II, the day I was born, moment I was born. She's used my money to finance everything she's done. She's stolen. She's a war criminal. What she has stood by and helped the crimes against my father, Edward VIII, and my mom, Claudia Ruth O'Keefe, Windsor, Queen, 36, till they removed my father with character assassination, which is weird because this woman and her brood that followed has committed every crime unfit. Anyway, this is a bunch of people that she's used while I've wore rags. I used to think that song Rag Doll fit pretty good by the Four Seasons. I've been tortured, my children, in ways that I hope the world are forced to see. I hope that I do have a day before I die. This is me in 43 after they brought me here in 41. I was born in 39, and this was a pigsty. They didn't have cars. They were dressed up for this photo, and I can remember running away. And they grabbed me, and they said it was a family photo, and I kept screaming, but I'm not part of your family. This is Lina, who had twins here on the far left. She's a psychopath, and yes, she was diagnosed by a doctor. And she killed the twins, Peggy and Carl. And Peggy was killed a week or 2 weeks before JFK. And his father was appointed ambassador to England, Joe Kennedy, 36, the year my father was forced to abdicate. And the addendum attachment was with the forced abdication, which was legal, went through channels. And the day I was born Queen Victoria II, the heir. My mother's just been deleted from history. She was the queen. Winston Churchill burned the files. And here's Uncle George, 1939, at a hot dog festival with Roosevelt. The Roosevelts were such a part of it because my dad married Claudia Ruth O'Keefe, sister to artist Georgia. This is my dad, a beautiful man, and it's what really hurts when I'm watching this Meghan Merkel. I'm saying Merkel because Markle is using part of my son Mark's name, who's heir after me, and this is my son Scott. Anyway, his Roosevelt's sons. It was such a gang up on my dad because he wouldn't follow the orders of the Freemasons, the Illuminati, Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Bilderbergers. And I know I'm being redundant here because I have to give some background. And I did a book in 76. I was living at Treetop when Elvis Presley was murdered, and he was. Later, I moved to Moonraker, which later became a movie with the 007, and my book was entitled A License to Kill, which a few years later with Timothy Dalton, A License to Kill. And I'm the one that almost got killed in this. Well, not just in this. I'm sure there's a lot of Brits and I know they did, paid a heavy price in it all to keep this woman. Well, they didn't do it to keep her in power, but she's there. Anyway, Flint was shot, Mr. Flint was, and I was out there in the campaign to replace one of the doctors I wrote about. April of 84 is when the endorsement came out. I'd run for Congress, and that was, oh, I'm going to sit because I'm gotten so old and beaten. So, anyway, I wanted to put this up, though, because if people go back with what I've been telling, I didn't know it was biblical, any part of it, and I didn't know about being my kidnapping till late 83. But anyway, I was telling about this. They call them Manchurian candidates, what they would say, that are programmed to kill. Well, you can program the person to appear to die of natural causes, and I've written about that. Warren and Rosina Matthews that were murdered, and they worked for Piedmont Hospital. They were forensic pathologists. They were murdered. And that's where Larry McDonald, the congressman doctor I wrote about, and his plane went down. I became a candidate 3 years later. So I'm leaving out the horror story that went on. I've put it up before. But I wanted to get to this. When I came here, and I literally have been homeless for so long in rags, made a pauper, but it's the torture and what was done to my children just because they could. Implantable biochips. One of the churches here bought this book and gave it to me and said, this is part of what you're telling about. Only I had never, this is before this was written. I think it was by Tex Mars or Jim Mars one. And it's talking about the biochips, mark of the beast, and it's put in, they put chips in root canals in your heart bypass or anywhere. So when these program shooters like the Vegas, they autopsied the poor man's brain. He's a victim of all this too, programming. He didn't know he was programmed. And they didn't, the thing is, in these people that, like the Virginia Tech shooter, Jim Holmes, what was his name? My God, they treated him for mental illness. He was in prison. And I'll say this again, when you misdiagnose, that's a cute little word, catch-all phrase, misdiagnose. And I'll say it again, if you had cancer, it doesn't matter what stage, if you were treated for mental illness and really what you had was cancer, you'd be appalled. Well, think of it this way. If you are programmed, you didn't do it, you didn't ask for it to be done, and you're treated for mental illness because this has all been a political crime, diagnosis murder. To give someone psychotic drugs is beyond anybody's belief. When they have nothing mental, they've been programmed. And they didn't ask to it. They had no way of knowing. And I put it all up. So I'm beating the dead horse here, I guess, to death, trying to get the law to work for me for once. Anyway, Timothy McVeigh had a chip put in him. He said that by the U.S. Army and planted a computer chip in his buttocks. All right, the name of this book is Project Lucid, and it's telling about the end times. Like the Bible states. And I didn't know anything about that having anything to do with me, but and I'm not sure it does, other than I was telling this. If you watch how history changed, well, I don't know what I'm showing there. I'm a bit beaten, okay? Sorry to have to keep saying that, but it's true. If you notice when, I got a fruit fly in here, what else? After they took down my father, Edward VIII, who never married Wallace Simpson, by the way, they're still bringing Wallace and the double up and calling him my dad in this big uproar over Markle and Harry. But if you watch when they took my father down, because he wouldn't go along with the global government, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, so they took him down. And they had George in their pocket. He's illegal, monarch, Elizabeth's father, the whole mess of them. Or the mafia runs the monarchy right now, the global government. that came to power after they kidnapped me with illegal treaties. They were allowed to put their military, the United States, on British soil, the UK, and thus start controlling everything. Denmark, by their mere presence, their location. And they've got an Area 51 in Australia. And any fool can look, excuse me, but any fool can look around and say, hey, what's all our military doing all over Germany, all over? We've got everybody but North Korea, for goodness sake. So now then, I've said that I'm going to get back to this. I've been putting this up for a long time on YouTube after I found out about my kidnapping and who I am. And watching this woman, Elizabeth, flaunt it. She's a thief, a war criminal. I'll say it again, and I can't get an attorney because I'm told it's too high profile. Well, they're afraid of being killed is exactly it. So I guess what I wanted to make, I made a mistake if this video went up. I don't think it did. But when I saw that, when I opened my YouTube yesterday or day before yesterday, not YouTube, Facebook, it had staring me in the face. The first thing I saw, wow, was this announcement where Harry's marrying Meghan. And I thought, and I'm going to list it here. And then that's all I can say. Because I quite believe that if there's not an end time, and the book I wrote in this implantable biochips, and the title of the book by Mars was Project Lucid. You should get it. Everyone should. It's probably 1996 when it was published. And it's not a big book, smaller book, but it's got a lot of information in it. But anyway, if I don't forget here, I'm not feeling that great. I wanted to list the things. First of all, my father never married Wallace Simpson. That was a whole takedown and a lie. Never been corrected. Elizabeth knows it. The whole brood knows it. Who doesn't know it in the royal family? They all do. Who doesn't know it in the news media controlled by the Rockefellers and Rothschilds? They all do. There's a blackout on me. How quaint. And my children. And the kidnapping. And my mom. Georgia O'Keeffe is my aunt, the artist. There's a blackout on any truth. So now that don't sound garble, let me say this. My dad was a saint. Actually, he was. And it infuriates me, you better believe it, when I see this Meghan Markle and Harry flaunting it in the so-called royal family, letting it happen, and they're putting up pictures of my father, saying it's my father, and it's not, the imposter that married Wallace Simpson. So all these years with me living in the hell I've lived in torture, and telling it and proving it, and they already knew it in the media, the Rockefeller-controlled media. So here I am, again, going on YouTube and Facebook maybe. But I want to get this across again. My father didn't commit any of those crimes. The devil did. He married Wallace and became the illegal Duke and Duchess of Windsor. He's buried at Windsor Frogmore Castle. He died in 1972. My mom and dad were still alive in October the 20th of 1986. They were still married. They always were married. My mom, as far as I know, was not ever married to anyone but my father, and my father married to my mom. And look at all this, because my father was honest. He wouldn't follow the orders of the mafia, the new world order that's in power, the global government. They kidnapped me, his only daughter, Queen Victoria II, the day I was born. Now then, here's what they had. They had such character, unbecoming a king. Well, my father didn't do it. It wasn't his character. It was the doubles and all the people that got in on it. And the Church of England even got on it, is what I find out. Winston Churchill, you name it. And all these good American presidents have all known. Every friggin' one of them. The Secretary of State, especially Kissinger. And I've told about Kissinger on here. Nobody has been held accountable, nothing. Now I want to go through this. Supposedly, my father married a divorcee, and Wallace Warfield Simpson. Remember, this is a lie. She was an American spy. She'd been married twice, and well, she couldn't have been Catholic, I don't suppose. But anyway, that was what has been presented and written, and it's still being told today with Markle. I hate to say that. It's got my son's name in it, Mark. Okay, so now then you've got Elizabeth as a war criminal. She knows about me. She knows she's a thief. She's using my money. I wonder how many trust funds she's gone through and my money she's gone through to support this brood. Now, my father was just married once to my mom, Claudia Ruth O'Keefe, so the rest of it's a lie. Now then, they've got my father marrying Wallace, who was twice divorced, and a lie. And that, I don't know where the Catholic came in there, but anyway. Now then, you've got Elizabeth, who's very aware that she's a thief, a war criminal, of who I am, and who my father married. The whole thing, she's part of it, and remained a part of it. Her kids have to know. Diana knew. She was told not to speak of it, and she was shaking hands with Henry Kissinger when he told her up in D.C., when she was charity. They use my stuff, my money, to give to charity when I'm living in such poverty. It's unbelievable. So I guess cut to the chase. What's the chase? They're still doing it. Diana married Charles, and then she got divorced. And you got my money just spread out everywhere while I'm walking on the side of the road, and I'm not going to, or living on top of the mountain begging, and I'm not going to get into the rest of it. It's horrible what they've done to me and my sons. And I can't say that enough because it is. Now, you've got Charles married Diana. Diana divorced, and she was dating this other guy. And then you've got Charles marrying Camilla, who was Catholic. There you come. And Catholic wasn't acceptable to the Church of England. So, supposedly, but now it is. Suddenly, you update the times this day and time. So you just bypass me. You just pretend I never existed. My father, total lie, but hey, let's forget about that. And it's so appalling. So you got Camilla was married. Before she was divorced, she was Catholic. Then you've got William and Kate. So Elizabeth and the brood know how to work it. The media is controlled by the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, so they don't want to have any interest in telling about me, not the truth. So anyway, how many of the things that they accuse my father, which he didn't do, have they done, blatantly done? Now then, Harry has come over to the United States, and he's marrying an actress, and she's biracial, and she's been married, and she went to a Catholic school. So all the rules were broken, and you're going to get mad at me for saying this. It's very heartbreaking to me to see how the public reacted to me, and you put it up, and they can't wait to go buy her jacket or coat that she had on. All this when they're phonies. They aren't even celebrities. They're crooks, and they should be locked away. So what else